please welcome from our event group organization, Benn Van Ryn from Earl of March, who's going to be talking about initiation. Thank you.
Today I'm going to explain to you why this mask and this shirt are the same thing. I'm going to tell you two stories and then you'll see what I'm talking about. So the first story of the mask begins in a tribe in New Guinea that for generations raised all of its boys to fear the men wearing masks above all else. Now, when these boys reach a certain age, the tribal leaders kidnap them. They take them away from their parents, send them into the wilderness, and force them to physically fight one of these men with the mask. Now, the man is quite a bit bigger than the boy, and the boy is terrified. So you'd think it wouldn't be an even fight. But the man in the mask lets the boy win. And when he does, he takes off his mask, and he puts it on the boy. This is very powerful symbolically, because the mask is essentially telling the child, you fought your fear. You're now a man. Welcome. And if you look at this and all good initiation or coming-of-age ceremonies, there's two key elements. There's the challenge and the reward. Don't think that the mask is the reward, though. The reward is actually the growth that the child experiences from fighting his fear. The mask is only the symbol that represents this. So what do we have in our society that's the equivalent? How do we tell our children that they're adults and they need to start acting like one? They need to start thinking about other people ahead of themselves. Well, we do have a ceremony, but it doesn't quite do the job. And that is the Sweet 16 birthday party. Now, the Sweet 16 birthday party is kind of funny because it looks like an initiation. It looks like a coming-of-age ceremony. But it's actually missing both key elements. It doesn't have a challenge, and it doesn't have a reward. You might think the party is a reward, but actually, the party's kind of like the mask. It's kind of like the thing you get that's physical, but not the growth. Because there's no challenge, there's no growth. So the mask, which symbolizes the growth, doesn't mean anything. It's an empty ceremony. It's a missed opportunity to tell children that they're now adults. So how do we initiate our children if our ceremonies don't do it justice? Well, I'll tell you how I did it. This is the second story, the story of the shirt. So ever since I was a little boy, I went to summer camp. And I was a very shy, very introverted boy. And I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have a lot of social skills. So for me, going to summer camp for a week with 8 boys I didn't know was terrifying. But I kept going, and eventually when I was older, I was offered the position as staff. Staff is quite a lot bigger of a deal than just going as a camper, because it's 10 weeks with 150 people you don't know, and you're looking after kids for the entire time. I realized this later, but this was the man in the mask knocking on my door. In the olden days, in Papua New Guinea, you had to fight the man in the mask. You didn't have a choice. It didn't matter if you didn't feel like it or you weren't ready. You had to fight him. You were kidnapped. But nowadays, when the man in the mask knocks on our door, we can tell him no. And that's what I did. I said, no, I'm not cool enough to work at a summer camp. Maybe ask someone else. So the man in the mask went away, and then he came back next summer, and he always comes back until you fight him. And he knocked on my door again. Ben, I know you're afraid of me. You should fight me and go to summer camp. And I said, if I went to summer camp, I wouldn't have any friends. I'd be a loner. So the man in the mask went away again. And he came back for the last time. He knocked on my door and he said, Ben, if you don't fight me, you're going to be afraid for the rest of your life. And I said, you know what? Okay, I'll fight you. I'll go to summer camp. So I did. I signed up for staff, 10 weeks. And I remember the first day, I was terrified. Just like the boys fighting the man in the mask back in the day. Opening ceremonies. 149 of the 150 staff were in the gym celebrating, having a good time, meeting each other, dancing. 149 of 150, because I was in a cabin by myself, hiding. I was too afraid to go. I was fighting the man in the mask, and he's putting up a good fight. But you know what? I made friends. I started to feel comfortable. By the end of the week, I was enjoying it so much I didn't want to go home. And that's when I realized I'd beaten the man with the mask. He wasn't so scary after all. And then what happened? This is kind of interesting. We had a ceremony, a shirt ceremony. I was given this shirt and told essentially by it, you fought your fear. You're now staff. Welcome. Do you now see how the mask and the shirt are the same thing? They're just symbols of initiation, things that tell us that you fought your fear. You're now stronger as a result. So how does everyone in the audience earn their mask? Well, in order to earn your mask, it has to mean something. It has to symbolize your growth. And in order to have growth, you have to fight your fear. So let's think about it. What's your fear? What's your man in the mask? What's something you think, oh, I'm not good enough to do that? Is it taking that class you don't think you're smart enough to do well in? Is it trying out for the team you're not very good at? Is it asking out that person you find intimidating? Is it dancing at an event called YouthTalks even though you might look a little silly? If any of those things you thought to yourself, no, I wouldn't do that. I'm not cool enough. I'm not good enough. Guess what just happened? The man in the mask just knocked on your door. Don't miss your opportunity to earn your mask. Thank you.